Good morning and namaste to all of you. Let's start our Tuesday class, Mahabharata class with some mantras. Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parbrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Bhuvaswaha Tatsavitra Varenayam Vargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. Asto ma satkamya, tamso ma jyotirgamya, mrityurma amritam kamya. Om sehna vavatu sehna bhunaktu saviryam karvavahi. Tejasvi navadhitamastu ma vidvishavahi. Om shanti 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 om. Today we are going to start the Bheeshma Parva. That is the name of this section of Mahabharata, and that's where the Bhagavad Gita is to. So the war is about to begin. The war which even Lord Krishna tried to stop it, but looks like that was not meant to be. So first chapter is Sanjay's gift. And this is page number 139, if you have the books. To the west of the field of Kurukshetra was the Pandav army, facing east, where the sun rose, facing the sea like Kaurava legions. On the banks of the Saraswati and the lake called Samant Panchak, Yudhishthir's soldiers swarmed. When the sun rose on the momentous morning, it lit a shining white parasol at the heart of the Kaurava force and coursed a thrill through the Pandav legions. It was Duryodhana's sovereign parasol. Even as a lover's blood quickens to see his beloved, the Kshatriyas quickened at the fierce spectacle of their enemies and at the imminence of war. What other excitement was there on earth to compare with this one? Arjun and Krishna saw the white parasol unfurled and raised their conches and blew on them. Dawn thunder. The Kauravas replied at once with blasts of their own, loud cheering and ferocious shouts, and Kurukshetra reverberated with the aggression of 10 million Kshatriyas. The air was electric. When a formal meeting of some commanders of the two armies was called on neutral ground, to lay down honorable conditions before the fighting began, so the war would be a righteous one, a dharma yuddha. They agreed that only peers should fight. Archers would fight archers, warriors in chariots would fight other rathikas, mace fighters would battle mace fighters, swordsmen other swordsmen, and so on. If any warrior withdrew during battle or fled, he would be allowed to go unharmed and not pursued or shot in the back. If an attack was with words, so too would the reply be, and not with arrows. No one who was unprepared or afraid would be attacked. Flag bearers, conch blowers, drummers, and their chariots, horses, and elephants would never be harmed. There were other codes of honor agreed upon and declared, which must be adhered to without exception. War might be a brutal contention, but it was a sacred thing as well. Once they agreed upon the laws for a dharma yuddha, the various commanders of the two forces withdrew to their camps. At dead of dark, the previous night, Vyas came to his son Dhritarashtra. That king sat alone and forlorn, faced with the inexorable conclusion of his long folly. He leapt up in alarm when Vyas entered. Ha! Who is it at this hour? It is I, your father. Vyas sat down beside his son and took his hand in compassion. Sighing, he said, "Don't blame yourself too much. It is the nature of the time. Savage days are upon us, and there will be a massacre, such as the earth has not yet seen. Finally, Dharma will prevail. There is nothing you can do now to save your sons. They will all perish, and the vain Kshatriyas who have allied themselves to Duryodhana. He felt Dhritarashtra's hand tremble. Kindly he asked, would you witness this war, Dhritarashtra? If you want, I can give your eye vision. Dhritarashtra shivered at the thought. He whispered, my lord, I have been blind all these years, and I would not have my sight restored just to see the deaths of my sons. All my life, my ears have like my eyes. I will be satisfied if someone describes the word to me. There was a knock on the door, and as if by fate, Sanjay entered his king's chambers. Vyas said, Sanjay will describe the word to you. I bless him with vision that only great rishis have. He will see the battle miraculously, every sword stroke, every arrow loosed, every slaying and each death. More, he will know the warrior's very thoughts, and be it day or night, he will see everything that happens on Kurukshetra. Each morning, he will travel subtly to the battle's edge, and from there have use of his occult vision. No weapon will touch him, or tiredness lay its hand upon him. Every night, he will return to you and describe all that transpired. Sanjay, you will never know tiredness, and your memory will be like a god's. Vyas sighed. But you will seldom bring news to your king to gladden his heart. You will see all his sons killed, as the omens of the earth and the air cry out. You will bring Dhritarashtra word of how the Pandavas raised the army of Hastinapur, and the torment of each day's news shall be expiation for your king's sin. The Muni said more gently, and in your time of anguish, remember that dawn comes after the night's darkest hour. The worst sinner finds redemption, and the hour of retribution is the time when his salvation begins. You too will find your peace, though you must first pass through the fire to be purified. Remember that when grief threatens to break your heart. Vyas embraced his blind son. He passed his hands over Sanjay's eyes, blessed the Sarthi as well, and left. The next morning, Sanjay stood on the field of Kurukshetra in a spirit body, light as air, and with the magic vision flooding his eyes. He saw all the happenings of the first day of the war. That day, Som approached the realms of the mains. The 7 large planets blazed as if they were on fire. The face of the sun seemed to be bisecting. From now, it is from Sanjay, the witness, that we hear about the Mahabharata Yuddha, the war at the end of an age. Sanjay said to his king Dhritarashtra, your son Duryodhana formed his legions into a fighting view. He called his brother Dushashan and said, our first task is to protect Pitama Bhishma's chariot. He by himself will bring us victory. Let him be guarded by our best Kshatriyas. There is only one enemy that our grandfather needs fear, Drupad's son, Shikhandi. Let our warriors kill Shikhandi as quickly as they can, and then who will stand before Bheeshma? I hear Arjun watches over Shikhandi. Drupad's sons, Yudhmanyu and Utmoij, ride beside Arjun. We must be careful of that force. Go, my brother, take our boldest men, protect Bhishma with your life. The day's sun was still young and crimson on the horizon when 10 Akshonis of the Kaurav force, 6 million men, were marshaled into an awesome view of war. With the 10 commanders to lead them, the 11th legion was deployed ahead of these 10, and Bhishma himself had charge of it. Yoked to a silver chariot, Bhishma's horses were as white as wave froth. His banner bore a golden palm tree with 5 stars above it. His hair was blemishlessly white. He wore white silk upon his body, and to look at him in his chariot, it seemed a full moon had risen upon the earth. The Pandav soldiers gazed at Bhishma and were afraid. The Kuru patriarch stood up in his chariot and spoke to his army. His voice was like the sea at night. The gates of heaven have yawned open to welcome those who die in battle. I say to all of you, fight with no thought for tomorrow. Let your courage rule you, for glory is in store for every man here. A warrior does not wish for a peaceful death in bed of old age or illness. He longs to die in battle. Know then, mighty warriors, that for you there is no defeat on the field of war. For either dying nobly, you will find Devlok, or victorious, you will inherit the earth. There is no defeat for those who fight, but only heaven or victory. So tell me, my friends, are you prepared to die? Like an ocean, they rowed back. We are. Only Karan did not answer Bhishma. He had sworn he would not fight as long as the Kuru patriarch did. The Akshoni Bhishma had chosen to be at the van of his army was Ashwatthama's. Bhurishra and Shalya were part of that legion, and 7 exceptional Kshatriyas formed a ring around Bhishma to protect him against Shikhandi. Duryodhana set his chariot at the heart of his army. His banner fluttered in the early breeze with its black serpent embroidered on golden cloth. Seeing the Kaurav legion in battle array, Yudhishthira turned to Arjun. Duryodhana has 11 Akshoni to our 7. And only now I realize how much bigger than ours his army is. Arjun, my brother, the enemy is formidable. How do you mean to deploy our men against Bhishma? Arjun replied serenely, we will form our men into a Vajra, a diamond phalanx. Indra uses this view. It is both a fluid and an impregnable formation, which maneuvers more quickly than any other. The Pandav army of 4 millions moved forward to face the Kaurav legions. Drishtadyumna was at the head of that force, and Bhim was at his side. Yudhishthira rode at the heart of the diamond, and Satyaki patrolled its right flank. A murmur went up from the Kaurav soldiers when they saw Arjun ride out to take his place at Shikhandi's side. The banner of Hanuman flew above Arjun's chariot. To keep his promise to Bhim, the legendary Warner had come to animate his image on the silken cloth. The form on the banner was alive. Its eyes moved and saw everything. Arjun's pale horses given him by Chitrath, the Gandharva, shimmered in the early light. But none of these was the most lustrous feature of Arjun's Rath, not even the Kshatriya himself with the Gandiv in his hand, like an arc of the moon. No, the sight of his Sarthi drew a gasp from the Kaurav legions. With the reins in his left hand and a whip in his right, Krishna was like a dark sun risen on that field of fate. Seeing Krishna and Arjun in their chariot, Drona and Krip knew this was no less than a vision of Nar Narayan they saw before them. In their hearts, they worshipped the vision. Krishna brought Varun's chariot to the front of the Pandav army. Softly he said, be strong now, Arjuna. Bhishma is the lion we must face first. It is him we must hunt. He is the one you must kill. Second chapter, Kurukshetra. When the two forces were face to face, a hush fell on them, a moment of stillness. All 18 Akshonis were like armies in a painting. Then at the heart of that luminous silence, a strange thing happened. Yudhishthira peeled off his armor and put down his bow. He removed his sandals, climbed down from his chariot with the white banner, and walked barefoot towards the enemy. For a moment, no one moved. Then Bhim, Arjun, Nakul, and Sahadev all laid down their weapons and followed their brother. Krishna, who wore no armor and carried no weapon today, went with Arjun. When he caught up with Yudhishthira, Arjun said anxiously, what are you doing? Bhim asked hoarsely, where are you going, Yudhishthira, without your weapons? Nakul said, you are making me afraid, my brother. And Sahadev, you are exposing yourself to the enemy. Yudhishthira did not look at his brothers. He strode on towards the Kaurav army. Krishna said quickly, a Kshatriya who seeks his elders' blessings before he goes out to fight is certain to win his war. Your brother wants to get Bheeshma, Drona, Krip, and Shalya's blessings before he fights them. The Kaurav soldiers began to jeer when they saw Yudhishthir coming. He is coming to beg his Pitama to stop the war. He has lost his nerve, seeing our army, the coward. Yudhishthir walked on towards Bhishma's chariot. The ring of warriors around Bhishma parted to let the Pandavas through. Bhishma waited for Yudhishthir with a smile. The Pandav emperor, Dharam's son, noblest of men, came up to his grandsire and with tears in his eyes prostrated himself on the earth at the patriarch's feet. And so did his brothers. His old eyes teary as well. Bhishma laid his hands on their heads, then raised them up and embraced them. Yudhishthir said, Pitama, we have not been able to prevent the war. I have come for your blessings, so my brothers and I will win. Bhishma said, my son, victory already belongs to you. Krishna is on your side, and where he is, so is Dharam. Alas, men are slaves to wealth, and I must fight against you today. The throne I renounced a lifelong has supported me all these years. My duty is to fight for the king who has kept me. But Yudhishthir, my love and my blessings are with you, because yours is the cause of Dharam in this war. Jai Vijay Bharat. Fight and be victorious, noble child. Yudhishthir went to Drona and Kripa, his gurus, and to his uncle Shalya. He prostrated himself before each of them and asked for their blessings and their permission for him to fight them. They gave both to the Pandav warmly. To Drona, Yudhishthir said, my lord, besides your blessing, I seek your advice. How can I win this war? Drona said, King of Dharam, victory is already yours. I hate to fight against you, but I too owe my livelihood to the Kuru throne. I cannot betray the king who has kept me these long years. Yet I do have some advice for you. He called Yudhishthir nearer. In a low voice, he said, I myself can only be killed when I lay down my weapons. It is a boon I have from my Guru. Remember that when my time to die arrives, as it must during this war. Yudhishthir knelt again before his master. As the Pandav approached, Shalya Krishna saw Karan come out to look at the armies. Quietly, the Dark One sought him out. Taking him aside, Krishna said urgently, I am told you will take no part in the fighting until Bheeshma dies. He gripped Karan's arm. It is still not too late, Karan. Come away with me now, at least for a few days. Fight for the Pandavas. Fight Bheeshma, who has mocked you repeatedly, and let the world see your worth. When you have killed the old man, you can go back to Duryodhan and Arjun will fight. Karan began to laugh. I'm not a child, my lord, that you can persuade me with the children's temptations. We are all children of one kind or another, replied Krishna. Karan said, I am moved to see how much you love the Pandavas, and perhaps even me, but I have already told you, Krishna, my life and my loyalty belong to Duryodhan. It would break his heart if I did what you ask. He laughed again to think of it, even for a few days. Then he was full of sorrow. Krishna, leave me to my fate. Not even you can change what was written for Karan before he was born. Go now. I thank you for your concern, but I am with the Kauravas. Krishna turned away sadly. When Yudhishthir had the blessings of his Pitama and his Gurus, he turned back to his own army. As he walked across the empty ground between the two forces, a thought struck him. He stopped and turned back to the legions of Hastinapur. Loudly he called, if there are any Kaurav soldiers who want to fight for Dharam, they are welcome to join us. The Pandav's arms were opened wide to receive anyone who came to him. A lone voice called, I will join you if you will have me, Yudhishthir. A fine Kshatriya and a loyal childhood friend came forward. It was Yuyutsu, who from his earliest days, had preferred the friendship of the Pandavas to that of his half-brothers. Yuyutsu, who had once warned Bhim that Duryodhan meant to kill him. Yudhishthir welcomed Yuyutsu, embracing him, while some way off Duryodhan was tight with fury. Yudhishthir said loudly, so all the Kaurav army heard him. At least now, when my uncle Dhritarashtra dies, he will have one son left alive to offer tarpan for him. He glanced at Bhim, who shone ominously on that field. For a moment, the Kauravas felt a tremor of fear as they remembered Bhim's oath that he would kill Dhritarashtra's 100 sons. Back among their own soldiers, the Pandavas donned their armor again. They picked up their weapons and they were stern and fearsome to behold. They climbed into their chariots and their legions seethed around them. Conches were blown, trumpets blared, the drums of both armies rolled like a spring thunder. Duryodhan watched the Pandav army forming the formidable fighting Vajra, and he rode up to Drona. The Kaurav said, here we are at last, my lord. The moment of fate is upon us. The moment we have waited a lifetime for. Drona stared across Kurukshetra at the sea of men massed against them. Weapons and armor flashed in the sun, vivid banners waved. The whinnying of the horses filled the crisp air, and the lusty shouting of foot soldiers to embolden themselves. Excitement swept the field over both armies. Drona smiled at his pupil and said, yes, Duryodhan, the moment of truth is upon us. Do you see the enemy? All the Kshatriyas? Duryodhan's gaze was riveted to the Pandav force. As in a dream, he said, I see Yudhishthir's vast legions. Acharya, I see his jewel-like view. I see your Shishya, Drishtadhyuman, at its head. I see Satyaki, his eyes full of fire. I see mighty Bhim and Arjun in Krishn's chariot. I see all these matchless Kshatriyas turned out against us, and my blood thrills to the occasion. So many of these warriors are your disciples. All your lessons will find final fruition today, as if this war is being fought for just that. I exult at it, Acharya. Truly, this is the most glorious day of our lives. His pale eyes ranged over the enemy ranks. Look beyond the front lines are Drupad and Virat. Side by side, masters of experience, how youthful they seem, their faces flushed with anticipation. Beyond them are Drishtketu, Chekitan, and the Lord of Kashi, breathless for the fighting to begin. Acharya, I see the pulse throbbing as their temples and they moisten their lips in eagerness. Beside them are Purujit, Kunti Bhoj, and Shabir. Flanking Arjun's chariot are Drupad's other sons, Yudhmanyu and Utmajas, so tall and bright. And away to their left, another cluster of Maharathiks, Draupadi's brilliant princes, Abhimanyu, a crest jewel at their head. Drona listened to Duryodhan in surprise that the Kaurav was so admiring of the enemy. Now Duryodhan turned his gaze back to his own legions. He said, but we are greater than the sea of men that confronts us, my lord. For here we have you, Acharya and Pitama Bhishma, who has never known defeat in battle, and Acharya Krip and the tameless Karan. Ashwathama and Vikaran are with me, and Somdat's son Bhurishwar, who is as strong as 100 men. These are just a few of the Kshatriyas who have come to risk their lives for my sake. If the enemy is a sea, Acharya, we are an ocean, and we shall drown them. Drona, the master, could not help but smile fondly at his Shishya, so dauntless on the brink of war. Drona thought regretfully, what a magnificent king this prince would have been, but for his one overmastering weakness, his enemy. Duryodhan was saying, truly we have an ocean with us, my lord, yet to my mind, Pitama Bhishma is our key to victory. The Pandavas will not contain him, the rest of us must guard him with our lives at all times. From across the Kaurav army, His fond grandsire Bhishma saw Duryodhana with the drone at his side. Bhishma saw a frown knit Duryodhana's brow and wanting to hearten his favorite grandchild, the Kuru patriarch raised his war conch and blew an echoing blast on it. Then he threw back his head and let out a roar. Duryodhan turned with a smile and waved to his Pitama, but to answer Bhishma's bass, from across the battlefield, from the Pandav army, floated the crystal notes of an unearthly conch. That sound was at once beautiful and terrible, and it shook the Kaurav soldiers to their very souls. In Arjun's chariot, his dark Sarthi had raised the Panchajanya to his lips. Now both armies erupted with conches of every pitch, ringing back and forth across Kurukshetra. Arjun echoed Krishn's clarion call with the long note of his own on the Devdat. Bhim raised his ponder to his lips, and thunder rolled across the field. Yudhishthir took up the Anant Vijay and blew into the echo of Bhim's sea call, a sound as tremendous as his brother made. Nakul and Sahadev blew in unison on the Sughosh and the Manushika. After being taken briefly unawares by the Pandavs' conches, the 100 Kauravas raised their own shanks and blew resoundingly on them. Without a moment's hiatus, they were answered by Kasiraj, Shikhandi, Drishtdiman, Satyaki, Virat, Drupta, Draupadi's sons, and Abhimanyu. All these Kshatriyas blew on their great sea conches at once. Heaven and earth quaked at the sound they made. Next chapter, a moment of crisis. As a multitude of conches shook Kurukshetra, Arjun said to his incarnate charioteer, Krishna, let us ride out some way between the armies before the fighting begins. Krishna coaxed his Gandharv horses forward. Hanuman was a little lion-tailed monkey on his banner. A hush fell again on the two armies when they saw Arjun's chariot emerge from the Pandav ranks on its own. The sea of men grew quiet, watching their chariot. They saw the warrior and it spoke earnestly with his Sarthi. The dark avatars, but they could not hear no word. The two exchanged. The space between the chariot and the legions was considerable. A morning breeze ruffling their hair, Krishna said to his soldier of light, Look, Arjun, at the glorious Kuru armies and the one we must fight with Bheeshma and Drona at its head. Look at all the Kshatriyas who have come to die at your hands. Suddenly Arjun grew very still. Krishna saw the Pandav tremble. Arjun bit his lip and moaned in an excruciating insight. He saw not enemies before him anymore, but sires and grandsires, masters, uncles, brothers, sons, grandsons, and childhood friends. A sob tore its way out of Arjun and he cried, Krishna, my hands shake and my mouth is dry, my body shivers and my hair stands on end. His eyes were full of tears as he looked at the Kaurav army. Stricken with fear, Arjun whispered, The Gandiv slips from my grasp, my skin burns as if it is on fire. I see omens of evil in the sky, and my head reels when I look at the enemy I am meant to kill. O Krishna, what good can come from killing one's kinsman? Krishna realized it was best if Arjun confessed what disturbed him so much. A yawning sense of destiny was upon the dark one. He too shivered, knowing that he, Krishna, had been born for this moment between two armies, Sanyor Ubhyur Madhya, which divided two ages of the earth more than for any other time of his life. It was the avatar's loneliest hour. Yet he knew this was a moment of infinite opportunity, an hour of miracles, when he could speak to dim generations of the future. Arjun was the key to this war. If Krishna could not convince the Pandav to fight, the cause of Dharma would be lost on Kurukshetra, and the forces of darkness would have sway over the world. Krishna knew that though he bore no weapons to this war, he must fight now. A battle of the spirit, a deeper battle than any he had fought before, as the two armies on both sides froze in time as if in a mural of war. Evil, which had already seized Arjun in coils of dread, clutched at Krishna with cold tentacles. Krishna knew the price of defeat if he lost this duel of the soul. But Arjun, possessed, ranted at him. I don't want victory. I don't want a kingdom, its power or pleasures. Of what use is a kingdom or life itself? Men who could be my father and grandfather, others that are my masters, uncles, nephews, and cousins, with whom, for whom I could enjoy a kingdom, stand armed to fight us to the death. I cannot bear it. Even if they kill me, how can I think of harming them? No, I don't want this terrible war. I would not have it if it were the throne of the three worlds. How much less for a miserable earthly kingdom? How can I even dream of killing Dhritarashtra's sons? They are my cousins. Let them be the most monstrous men. I shall be worse than they are if I kill them. My crime shall be more horrible than any of theirs. How can I dare spill the same blood that flows in their bodies and mine? Blood that unites us. How will I ever find peace again? Even if they are demented with envy and greed, even if they are so see no fault in murdering family or in being treacherous to childhood friends, should we imitate them? Shouldn't we know the sin in this hideous thing and shun it? Krishna said nothing yet. He saw what Arjun did not, that this battlefield trembled on the verge between one age and another. Both were unsteady now. Arjun burned with anxiety. He swayed in his chariot like a green sapling in the wind. Helplessly, he said, when a noble house like ours is divided by war, it is ruined. The old ways are forgotten, the ancient rituals and truths, and when laws perish, evil and vice take all the claim. You know what happens then? The women become loose, castes are mixed, and the age turns dark. My lord, it is straight to hell that such a clan goes. First of all, those who began its destruction, because the spirits of the mains fall from heaven, the sacred covenants are broken, and all the generations of such a house are doomed to hell. What a heinous sin you and I have plotted, to murder our family out of greed for a throne. Instead, let Duryodhan kill me in battle while I am unarmed and unresisting. Arjun sat down in the chariot, buried his head in his hands, and wept. Krishna realized he must answer the Pandav, coax him out of his despair, or all would be lost. As calmly as he could, he began, from where this cowardly spirit at such a critical time? This is not for a Kshatriya. It will not lead you to heaven, Arjun, but to disgrace. Don't give in to this womanliness. It is beneath you. Cast it aside and arise. Oh, Vijay. But evil was truly upon the Pandav. He cried in anguish, how will I attack Bheeshma and Drona with arrows in battle when I should worship them instead? I would rather be a beggar in the world than kill my gurus. How could I dream of enjoying a kingdom stained with my master's blood? When I see who the enemy is, I don't know if I would rather win or lose this war. This is not weakness, it is a strength of compassion. How could I live if I killed my cousins? Krishna, help me. Confusion roils my mind. My soul is weak with pity. I am sick with sorrow and fear. Teach me, my Lord. Tell me what I must do. Again, Arjun sobbed. No, nothing can drive out the grief that drives up my senses, paralyzes me. Not unrivaled kingdom on earth. Why not the sovereignty of the Devas could rid me of this terrible sorrow? His face grim, he said, I will not fight, and fell silent. Krishna smiled at him as at a petulant child. He said indulgently, you grieve for those you should not, Arjun. but you speak to me of wisdom. Wise men do not grieve for either the living or the dead. You and I and these kings of men have always existed and always shall. Childhood, youth, and old age are three stages of life, and death is only the fourth, as natural, as inevitable as the other three. Death is the stage by which the soul passes from one life to the next. With death, the soul assumes a new body. The wise are not troubled by this because the soul, which pervades all the living, the aging and the dying, never dies itself. It was never born or begun. It neither kills nor is killed. It is primeval and indestructible. It always was and shall always be. As the body sheds worn out clothes, so the soul sheds worn out bodies. And just as we put on new clothes, the soul dons new bodies, as if they were its remnant. But the soul is not touched by fire or weapons, by wind or water. Inmost, subtlest element, always the being of beings, it is changeless, eternal. Arjun was still downcast, unconvinced. He had the uncanny feeling the words the blue god spoke were meant for a multitude of listeners other than himself. Unborn, yet avid listeners. As if their chariot out on Kurukshetra stood not just in their own time, but at the heart of all the swirling ages of men. Deep and secret features swelled around them, gazed on them with a billion unseen eyes, and brushed their souls with ghostly fingers. Arjun frowned. He felt he was alone on the bank of a timeless river of light flowing from dark Krishna. Flowing for him, yes, but not only for him. The Pandavas sensed numberless presences gathering around, and the pristine river shone at them as well, to drink from its grace. Now Krishna began to speak in some hidden rapture, as if he played on his flute. Even if you believe the soul is born again and again and dies as well like that, still you shouldn't grieve. For certain then is death for he who is born, and the moment of it already decided at his birth, and equally certain is birth again for the dead. Why grieve for the inevitable? You do not determine when any man, even yourself, is born into the world. How can you hope to decide when or not he will die? Arjun seemed to grow calmer now and to listen to his dark Sarthi, relieved that at least his warrior's panic grew less. Krishna went on. But this is not what is crucial. You are a Kshatriya. For you, a battle of dharma is the highest fortune. How can you be so full of doubt at such a time? You should rejoice, Arjun. The gates of heaven are open. If you deny your own nature's glory and do not fight, then you will sin. Through all time, men will speak of your shame. For a man like you who knows honor, shame is worse than death. They will say Arjun was afraid on the great occasion. Even your friends will scoff. Think then, what will your enemies say? Could anything be sadder? So arise, Pandav. If you die in battle, you will go straight to Swarag. If you triumph, you will enjoy the earth before you find heaven. Fight Arjun, and I swear you will not sin. Lulled by Krishna's voice, absorbed in his smile, his eyes, his presence of grace, Arjun began to float away down the river of light. The Sarthi now spoke softly, hypnotically to the Pandav, touching his inner mind, as if in prayer he chanted his wisdom as much to himself as to his cousin. In exorcism, Krishna continued. Along the infinite way, no effort, even the smallest, is in vain or lost, and no obstacle prevails. This is the wisdom of union, O yoga, of yoga. Arjun, I am with you. Free yourself from attachment to what you do. Make no anxious difference between success and failure. Act. Act in purity. Act serenely. Even mindedness is yoga. Detachment and skill are yoga. For one who is determined, his understanding is single and lucid, but the thoughts of the undiscerning are many branched, endlessly confused. Arjun was a portal to unborn generations as Krishna's words spilled through him, each a being alive, tender and rampant, a bright host of masters. They reached beyond him into veiled times, dim, down mysterious trails of history, taking fire to the hearts of bizarre and visionary heroes who would one day walk a very different world and make war again. In his perfect passivity, while Krishna exalted him to immaculate action, pure war, Arjun became the blue guard's unwitting ally in another, older contention. He stood at a crossroads of the mythic universe and, listening absorbed, gave his astral body to become Krishna's prophet. Krishna said, "The wise who have yoked their intelligence are freed from the bonds of birth. They reach Brahma, the sorrowless state." Arjun, your mind is confused with all that you have read and heard. Your heart is bewildered. When true insight dawns on you, you will see beyond bookish Vedic learning, and your spirit will be profound and unshakable. The earth received the avatar's song. So now the message of Bhagavad Gita, we will continue next week. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vishishyate. Om Shanti 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 Om. Thank you very much.